Hurricane Irma, Florida and Puerto Rico brace for storm. Hurricane Irma, which has strengthened to a Category 4 storm, is expected to slam the Caribbean and possibly the U.S. mainland this week. The increasingly menacing storm would continue churning west in the Atlantic Ocean Tuesday, and meteorologists say Puerto Rico and other Caribbean islands could begin to see its wrath by the end of the day, according to the National Hurricane Center. As of 2 a.m. ET, the dangerous major hurricane was about 360 miles, 575 kilometers, east of the Leeward Islands, the National Hurricane Center said. It is packing maximum sustained winds of 145 miles per hour, 235 kilometers per hour, as it heads west at 13 miles per hour, 20 kilometers per hour. Landfall is expected early Wednesday on the island of Anguilla, the Hurricane Center said. Computer models show the system swirling toward the Caribbean, and by the end of week, it will turn right toward the north, said CNN meteorologist and weather anchor Pedram Javaheri. While Irma's exact path is still uncertain, several islands in the Caribbean as well as Florida are bracing for the storm. After declaring a state of emergency all across Florida, Governor Rick Scott said President Donald Trump had offered the full resources of the federal government as Floridians prepare for Hurricane Irma. In Florida, we always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And while the exact path of Irma is not absolutely known at this time, we cannot afford to not be prepared, Scott said in a statement. Puerto Rico. Hundreds of people rushed to the stores, emptying shelves of food and drinking water just as the governor of Puerto Rico, Ricardo Rossello, declared a state of emergency and activated the National Guard on Monday. For hours, people also lined up outside hardware stores hoping to get plywood, batteries and power generators. If Irma knocks out power, Puerto Ricans said they are worried it would take weeks or months before the power is restored. Power, is something absolutely necessary, especially due to Puerto Rico's weather. We need to have the AC or a fan on all night, a woman told CNN affiliate WAPA. Last month, the director of Puerto Rico's power utility Ricardo Ramos Rodriguez said several factors have made the island's electric system vulnerable and fragile, WAPA reported. One of those factors is the shortage of employees. Many workers recently retired or left their jobs for better prospects in the U.S. mainland, Ramos Rodriguez said. Public schools and officials at the University of Puerto Rico campuses have canceled classes, and many businesses remain closed. Puerto Rico and a string of Caribbean islands are under hurricane warnings, including the British and U.S. Virgin Islands, Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla, Montserrat, St. Kitts, Nevis, Sal, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, St. Martin and St. Barts. The Hurricane Center said. Read, Hurricane Irma could be next weather disaster. The warnings are usually issued to areas that could see tropical storm force winds of up to 140 miles per hour in about 36 hours after the alert goes into effect. Make a U-turn and die in the ocean. Irma, the Caribbean islands don't need more problems. Twitter user MuterTropical wrote about the storm. Better safe than sorry. By the weekend, it's possible that Irma could start heading to the eastern coast of Florida and also farther up the east coast, Javaheri said. Everyone wants to see this at least meander away from the United States. The strength, the positioning, the timing of the troughs coming into the eastern coastline will dictate exactly where Irma ends up, Javaheri said. In Miami, supermarkets are already selling out on water and non-perishable food. People are trying to beat the rush in case Irma makes landfall in Florida. I've been through hurricanes and they're like, oh, it's going to hit right here, and then it hits 30, 40 miles up the coast and it kind of changes the way everything goes, so better safe than sorry. Why Irma could be especially intense. Irma is a classic Cape Verde hurricane, meaning it formed in the far eastern Atlantic, near the Cape Verde Islands, now known as the Cabo Verde Islands, before tracking all the way across the Atlantic, CNN meteorologist Brandon Miller said. And Cape Verde storms frequently become some of the largest and most intense hurricanes. Examples include Hurricane Hugo, Hurricane Floyd, and Hurricane Ivan. Hurricane Irma, fresh on the heels of Hurricane Harvey, strengthened Monday into a Category 4 storm with 140-mile-per-hour winds, as Florida started to prepare for its potential landfall over the weekend. The latest forecasts have Irma on a more direct path toward South Florida, raising the possibility that the United States could be hit with back-to-back major hurricanes. Gov. Rick Scott of Florida declared a state of emergency on Monday for the state's 67 counties. Hurricane Irma is a major and life-threatening storm, and Florida must be prepared, Mr. Scott said in a statement. The last hurricane to hit Florida was Matthew last October, which brushed up along its east coast before making landfall in South Carolina as a Category 1 storm. Mr. Scott said on Twitter that he had discussed the storm on Monday with President Trump, who offered the full resources of the federal government as Floridians prepare for Hurricane Irma. Coast Guard crew members and helicopters that assisted in rescue missions in southeast Texas for Hurricane Harvey were also starting to return to their home stations, including Florida, to prepare for Irma, a Coast Guard spokesman said. American Airlines announced late Monday that it had canceled several flights on Tuesday between Miami and the Caribbean destinations. For people in South Florida, now is the time to start preparing and getting those hurricane kits in order, Chuck Kirokaza, a meteorologist at National Weather Service in Miami, said. Hurricane Irma, which surfaced as a tropical storm off Africa shortly after Hurricane Harvey made landfall in Texas last month, has intensified in recent days, gaining strength from the Caribbean's warmer waters. Irma could become a Category 5 storm in the next few days as it nears the Bahamas and Cuba, Mr. Kirokaza said. It all depends on the path, he said. The latest forecasts indicate Irma could hit Puerto Rico and then the northern half of the Dominican Republic, before rolling toward Cuba at the end of the week. The storm's path over the weekend is less clear. It could move toward Florida and make landfall near Miami, or it could veer south of Cuba. A hurricane warning has been issued for Caribbean islands including Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Barts. The British and United States Virgin Islands are also under a hurricane warning. The storm could drop up to 10 inches of rain over parts of the Caribbean and cause dangerous flooding and landslides, the National Weather Service said. The center of Irma was about 410 miles east of the Leeward Islands, which include Puerto Rico, as of late Monday and was expected to pass over them Tuesday night or early Wednesday. The storm is moving west at about 13 miles per hour and has wind gusts exceeding 165 miles per hour.